Kayla knew about my submissive desires and my cross-dressing, and we had experimented with her humiliating me in various ways, but it was always private. Then one night when we were at a pool hall shooting a game, she began to subtly humiliate me. We were playing straight pool, first one to sink 50 balls was the winner. There were 3 high school age girls playing at the table next to us. As we played, Kayla began teasing me about how she was going to beat me in the pool game. She started saying things that indicated we had made a bet over the game, but we hadn't. She would laugh and say how she couldn't wait to punish me for being a loser. I'm not an expert at pool, but I hold my own. Kayla usually wasn't as skilled as I was, but tonight she was on fire. Meanwhile, I couldn't seem to get it together. The more she gained the upper hand, the worse I played. Her teasing threw me off, and so did her outfit. She wore a frilly cream-colored blouse with flowing sleeves, paired with a snub brown suede miniskirt and boots. She knew how much I liked her blouse, and as she would pass by me, she'd rub it against me. Soon enough, the girls at the nearby table noticed what Kayla was saying and started watching us out of the corners of their eyes. Then, she made an impressive shot, laughed, and, loud enough for them to hear, teased that she was eager to see how ridiculous and embarrassed I'd look when I had to follow through with her demands as the winner. One of the girls spoke up, "Sorry to interrupt, but I couldn't help overhearing. What's going to happen if he loses?" Kayla gave me a mischievous grin and told the girl, "I'm going to put him in my mother's clothes every day for a week and make him walk my dog twice a day." The girls burst into laughter. "And what if you lose?" the first girl asked. "Well, I won't," Kayla replied. The girls were fully engaged now. They stopped their game and took seats on a raised bench overlooking our table. They cheered when Kayla made a shot or when I missed one. The score was Kayla 49, me 38, when she walked in front of me to line up what could be her winning shot. I was sort of in her way, but I thought I was far enough back not to be a problem. Wanting to stay cool and hold on to at least a bit of dignity in front of the girls, I didn't want to move. Kayla glanced back at me and focused on her shot. I did not realize what shot she was lining up, though. Suddenly, she pulled the stick back fast and hard, and the end smashed into my privates. I made a noise and doubled over. All I could hear was the sound of the girls laughing and congratulating Kayla on the best shot of the night. Kayla said, "If you don't step aside, I'll give you another reason to move." Feeling completely embarrassed and a bit pained, I reluctantly stepped aside, and Kayla made her final shot. The girls erupted in cheers, chanting, "Loser, loser, loser." Kayla walked up to me, laughing in my face, before slapping me across the cheek. "Looks like you're going to be prancing around the block twice a day in my mother's lingerie." She started to turn back toward the girls but suddenly spun around, lifting the cue stick between my legs again, hitting me even harder than before. I collapsed with a sharp, high-pitched cry, sinking onto the bench, doubled over. The girls stared in disbelief that I had taken it so quietly. They started calling me a wimp and teasing me about how ridiculous I was going to look in Kayla's mother's clothes. "Get me a Coke, slave boy," she ordered, and I kind of crab-walked over to the machines, trying to relive the ache in my manhood, and bought her a Coke. When I returned, Kayla was sitting on the bench, telling the girls about the various humiliating outfits she was going to make me wear the following week for dog walking duty. Then I'll have him do it in just a slip, stockings, and high heels, with his hair tied up in a scarf. The girls were laughing and teasing me as I gathered up the pool balls and cues to return them. They asked if they could come watch me walk the dog in drag, but Kayla told them that she didn't want people set up to see me. It had to be spontaneous, so that I would have the hope that I could get through it undetected, and if I was seen, it was just my bad luck. They were disappointed until she asked one of them for her address and promised to mail her a picture of me performing my dog walking duties in drag. This was fine with them, and she got all 3 addresses. They each told me how much they were looking forward to seeing my pictures, and they hoped I'd be seen by lots of people. As we left, she said to me, "You know how hot it made me to humiliate you like that? I'm very glad you enjoyed yourself." I said truthfully, "I really liked it too." "Not as much as you're going to," she teased. "After all, I can't disappoint those girls, now, can I?" "So, starting this weekend, you're going to walk my dog in my mother's clothes. And I'm going to take lots of pictures to send to them. I can't wait to tell my mother. She's going to get a kick out of this." I'd only gone out in drag a few times, mostly on Halloween, and my experiences had not always been good, since Kayla wanted to use her mother's clothes instead of my own pitifully small wardrobe to complete the punishment. She decided that one day was enough punishment, but that her mom would have to be in on it. Kayla's mom, Julia, was a sweet lady, but she was the opposite of Kayla, who was fun-loving but serious about her future and not a big party animal. By contrast, Julia was a recent divorcee who was making up for lost time like crazy. She spent her days with her divorcee friends in a mad whirl of shopping, drinking, country clubbing, and chasing men. One night, about 2 weeks after the pool hall incident, I was having dinner with Kayla and Julia when Kayla brought up the subject of my losing the bet. She said, "That is loser. I had to be her slave for the day and do whatever she wanted. And I couldn't complain or refuse anything, no matter how humiliating it was." This seemed a few steps up from what we'd discussed, but Kayla just gave me a smile and I fell right in line. Then she told her mom about me dressing in drag for the day. Well, Julia howled. Immediately after dinner, she went through her basement closets, looking for old clothes I could wear for my punishment. Whenever she stopped pulling things out, saying that should be enough, Kayla would encourage her to find more. She told Julia about the photos she wanted to send to the girls from the pool hall, and she said, "The more outfits we have to choose from, the better. Besides, he has to spend the whole day in dresses, so I think he should give us a fashion show of lots of different looks." "Are you really going to make him walk the dog in a dress?" asked Julia. "Absolutely," said Kayla. "You think he's have let me off the hook if I'd lost the bet? What were you supposed to do if you lost?" Julia wanted to know. "He expected me to get down on my knees in the ticket booth at work and give him a little something while he was selling tickets." "My God, Kayla, what were you doing agreeing to a bet like that?" Julia wanted to know. The look she gave me showed that I was on her shit list for thinking I could degrade her daughter that way. I was helpless to argue. But the truth was that Kayla had thought that part of the bet up too, to answer one of the girls in the pool hall. Not that I would have said no to such an experience. Simple, Mom, I knew there was no way I was going to lose. He's a lousy pool player. The first time we played, I had a terrible time letting him win so he wouldn't feel all humiliated losing to a girl. "So, you set him up for this?" "Just like a pool hustler." They both had a good laugh as I stood there filled with shame, my arms full of the clothes I was going to wear. It was decided that the following day, a Saturday, would be my day of punishment. And to prepare me, Kayla spent the evening plucking my eyebrows, shaving my legs, my chest and my back, and washing and curling my hair. She had me dress in a pair of her mom's panties and one of her bras. Then she had me put on pantyhose and a slip. Next, she did a dry run of my makeup and got me into a pair of Julia's old sandals that had only 2-inch heels and were just a little too small. These were all the kinds of things we'd done before, but always in private. This time Julia stuck around to watch the whole thing. She made comments continually, teasing me and belittling me. And Kayla egged her on, knowing it was driving me wild. She made me walk around to practice in the heels, and they thought of a lot of little errands to send me on around the house. Finally, they put me into red satin blouse and a tight black knee-length skirt, and Kayla tied a silk scarf over the curlers in my hair. "What's that for?" I asked. "To cover your curlers while you're out," she said. "I've decided I want you to walk the dog tonight as a warm-up." I opened my mouth to protest, but she slapped my face. Just then, Julia came back from making tea. "What was that?" asked Julia. "I had to slap this little girlie," said Kayla. "She's trying to get out of her punishment." "Oh dear," said Julia. "That's very naughty. Perhaps she needs a spanking. Should I get you a hairbrush, or would you rather use one of the ping-pong paddles?" "Ping-pong paddle, I think," said Kayla, "unless you'd rather be a good girl." "Okay," I said. "I'll walk the dog." "Oh, you're no fun. You could have let me spank you for a while first." Turned out walking the dog was not that simple. First they had to take my picture, then give me all sorts of instructions on whose house not to let the dog pee in front of, and finally I was sent off with the dog in a baggie in case the dog pooped. The walk down her driveway was so thrilling. It was a cool night with a mild breeze, and the feeling of the slip rubbing against my thighs was making me very horny. They had the driveway lights on and were watching me from the front door. I'd been given quick instructions on how to walk in a ladylike fashion, but it was hard when an 80-pound Irish setter is pulling you along. The walk around the block was pretty uneventful, except for the fear that flooded through me every time a car went by. At the end of the opposite side of her block, right after the dog took his dump and I was leaning over to pick it up, Julia's car suddenly glided up next to me and Kayla leaned out with the camera flash. She took my picture as I straightened up with the baggie full of dog's shit in my hand. I was so humiliated. I just knew I was going to look like a total asshole in that picture. When I got back, Kayla decided that I should also take out the garbage in drag, but before I went, she made me take off the blouse and skirt. Then she photographed me in the driveway carrying the garbage can in just a slip and a headscarf. A car went by as I was out at the curb and I was terrified of who might be seeing me in this state, but whoever it was just kept driving. When I got back to the house, Kayla had locked me out. I rang the doorbell a few times, but when there was no answer, I sat down on a deck chair to wait for her to take pity on me. She left me outside for about 20 minutes, then she let me in. She had me change into a negligee and peignoir set, and we went through to have a last cup of tea with Julia before going to bed. At that point, Kayla announced that the following day, I would be their servant, doing housework and cooking so that she and her mom could have a well-deserved day off. Since I already did some cooking and lots of chores around the house, this was no big deal to me, but the chance to do it while dressed in drag was delicious. Kayla decided that servants couldn't sleep with the mistress of the house, so I was plumped down on an air mattress in the basement. I was awoken the next morning when Kayla poured a pitcher of ice-cold water on me with Julia watching and laughing. "Oh, Kayla," she said, "you're going to drown the poor thing." I was hustled upstairs to get my hair combed out, and then fresh makeup was Applied. I remember the first outfit they put me in. It was a soft, pink crepe blouse with big ruffles at the cuffs and around the neck paired with a silky gray floral skirt. Under it, I wore a pink bra and panty set and a pink slip with a lot of lace trim. I've always had a slip fetish and, knowing this, Kayla made me walk around in just the slip to start fixing the breakfast before they put me in the blouse and skirt for my first dog walking expedition of the day. Again, I was photographed several times with and without the dog, and then I was sent off to do my duty. This was a much scarier walk as the sun was coming up and there were people out and about, including a paperboy who kept circling me and two little girls who wanted to pet the dog. I guess I looked okay, since they didn't pay any attention to me, but I was shaking by the time I returned to Kayla's house. She and Julia were just getting out of the car, so I knew they'd been following me taking pictures. "Aren't you just adorable in that outfit?" said Julia. "You know, I never wear it anymore, so it's yours if you like." I insist. One look at Kayla told me I'd better be gracious, so I curtsied and thanked Julia and assured her I would wear it often. This got them both howling. Again. I was changed into an old house dress for serving breakfast, which I was not allowed to eat. Then it was a skirt and sweater combination for pictures in the backyard. I went through a half-dozen changes in outfit before lunch, which I served on the deck in the closest thing they had to a French-made outfit, a black slip, a ruffled white blouse, black stockings and heels, and a large white lace handkerchief folded and pinned to my hair. Kayla decided that since there was a servant to handle the dog walking, old Bo would be treated to 3 walks today. That allowed her to send me out in the middle of the afternoon in a peasant blouse and a long floral skirt. That was the worst part of the whole day, as there were people everywhere and I was sure they could all tell I was a guy in drag. But no one shouted or pointed or chased me, so I guess I did okay. The rest of the afternoon was spent shooting pictures of me in different outfits walking the dog up and down the driveway. As dusk approached, the wind picked up and dark clouds moved in. Before long, the rain started, and as we came through the garage to shoot what was supposed to be the last set of dog walking pictures, the sky opened up and the deluge began. I was wearing a creamy satin blouse with long puffy sleeves that ended in cuffs, with large black buttons and a pair of silky brown long culotte type things that Kayla called palazzo pants. I stopped at the edge of the garage, but Kayla insisted I go on. Bo loves the rain and this will make it look like the photos were taken on different days, she reasoned. So you take him down to the end of the driveway, wait about a minute to make sure you're good and soaked, then come back and pose right there by the car. I told her she was cruel and beautiful, and, after giving her a long kiss, I went out to be drenched for her amusement. By the time I got back, Julia was standing there too, laughing at my drowned rat appearance. Kayla insisted I turn this way and that until she got the perfect pose. Julia remarked on how cruel she was being and then said, if it was up to her, I'd suffer far greater humiliations for daring to think I could force Kayla to excite me at work. Like what, Mom? Asked Kayla, fanning the flames with a wicked grin. Like that ping-pong paddle spanking for one thing. Okay. She turned to me and said, Slave, I order you to submit to Mistress Julia for 40 whacks on your backside with a ping-pong paddle. Now. I curtsied and came into the garage, dripping. She pulled the blouse and pants off me and made me bend over a sofa in the basement, soaking wet in just a bra and panties. When Julia's first couple of whacks seemed too timid, Kayla grabbed the paddle and gave her a 10 stroke demonstration, which was not deducted from the total. Julia did much better after that. After my backside gleamed red, even through the yellow panties I was wearing. Kayla asked her mom what else she would recommend for my punishment. Well, he should excite you down there. Mom, I don't have a male organ. No, but you have a toy, don't you? So, the next thing I knew, I was dressed in an old green chiffon cocktail dress and was down on my knees in front of Kayla, playing with her toy through the fly of her jeans as Julia watched and commented on my technique. When it came time for Kayla to finally show excitement, Julia took a jar of mayo from the fridge and flung spoonfuls of it in my face to simulate the jism. I sat there and let them laugh for a good long time. The humiliation was absolutely incredible. Finally, it was late enough for my final dog walk. Making good on the promise she'd made to the girls, Kayla made me do the honors in a slip and a headscarf. This time I was really terrified because I wasn't just in drag. I was in lingerie, which wasn't only embarrassing, but might have been illegal for all I knew. Fortunately, although the rain had stopped, the late hour and weather kept the streets pretty clear, and the only really embarrassing moment was when Kayla popped up out of a bush a couple of houses down from her own and took my picture. It was late, when we sat down in our negligees and peignoirs for late night tea, and Julia congratulated me on being such a good sport. I told her honestly that I had lost the bet, fair and square, and I loved Kayla, so I'd had no choice but to sacrifice my dignity for their amusement. I told her that I had deserved the ridicule that had been heaped upon me, and I would never again be foolish enough to make a bet against Kayla over a pool game. It was only then that Julia realized she could have made my day even more humiliating by inviting over some of her girlfriends, in particular Margie, a blonde bombshell with an incredibly abrasive personality who delighted in emasculating any man in her path. I was glad I had escaped having her see me the way I'd been tormented today. That's okay, Mom, said Kayla. I'll get him to make another bet before long, and we'll have the whole gang over to watch the fun. Don't bet on it, I said, but I didn't really mean it. Thanks for watching. If you liked this story, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Also, consider becoming a member for exclusive stories and early access.